This is the third and last of the 3 videos on how to beat 100 at desktop tower defense, which I'm dealing with a sort of collection of miscellaneous, fairly fine points. The next one is why we use storm towers and not typhoon towers. I mean, it might seem at first sight that it's better to use typhoon towers. I mean, firstly, maybe you should run a test and see whether they actually offer better sort of bang for buck in terms of killing air creeps, but when most of the 6 out of 7 rounds are ground creeps, not air creeps, and they'd be busy firing away killing ground creeps during those other 6 rounds. So you'd have a smaller, maybe you wouldn't need a quake tower at all, or maybe you kill them off quicker and you wouldn't have to build up a backlog of unkilled creeps. But the problem is with doing that is that they wouldn't fire at the air creeps, because the way a tower works is it finds a target and keeps on firing at it until it moves out of range or killed. So when an air wave started, the typhoon towers would all be busy firing away, certainly in the later rounds, at the ground creeps, and a lot of them would never get round to firing at the air creeps. So you need storm towers which only fire against the air creeps, because then at the start of the wave they haven't got any targets and they immediately fix on the air creeps. The next sort of slightly detailed point is how many quake towers you should have. I mean, obviously you need at least one. We already discussed that. The question is whether you should have more than one. Now, the reason, again, for having more than one would be that you reduce that number of unkilled creeps, kind of, which are being juggled backs and forwards. Now, that kind of peaks, or didn't quite peak, but I mean at the time when your sort of last opportunity to do anything about it, you've got about 3,000 in unkilled creeps at the end of level 97. Now, not only that, but about 1,000 of that is in 4 bosses from the 2 last boss rounds, 88 and 96, and you've absolutely no hope of killing those with any reasonable number of quake towers on sort of relevant timescale. So your potential benefit from putting more than one quake tower in would be if you could get kill off earlier all those 2,000 in unkilled creeps. So that immediately shows you it's not worth building 2 additional quake towers, because they cost you 2,500, so your cost would be greater than your benefit. But it's not quite so clear whether you should build 1 additional quake tower for a total of 2. I mean, I ran 1 or 2 experiments, and I didn't do any better by having 2 rather than 1. But it's very easy to make mistakes, and I think that's probably worth investigating a bit further. Now, in a similar kind of vein, there's a question as to whether it's worth selling your quake tower or quake towers, because you'd clearly be better off, or potentially better off, in the final 3, certainly the final 2 air waves, 91 and 98, and indeed 99, if you had additional spikes. So maybe you could at least buy some additional 2 or 3 additional spikes by selling off your quake tower. Now, of course, if you sell off your quake tower, that's the end of killing ground creeps. So you'd want to do it as late as possible. And there's a point about getting your timing right, so that you've actually got time to sell it off, and time to buy and upgrade the spikes in time for them to be of use. But potentially that might work. Now, I only tried that once and it didn't help, but again, maybe that's something that's worth having a more careful look at. Next question is frost towers. You'll notice in the collection of 10 videos that go with this that actually take you through a complete run through. I've bought 2 blizzards which slow the air creeps down. Now, the question is whether that's worth doing, or whether you'd be better putting that money into an additional spike. And again, that's not quite so clear cut. I mean, I've generally, after a few experiments, found it better to have those frosts, but that may be because I haven't got the timing and so on of my firing my spikes exactly right. And that's the sort of final issue, which is how you fire the spikes. I mean, it's reasonably clear for how to do it for level 84 when you've just got one. I mean, I find it works if you fire it when maybe only 2/3 of the air creeps have got in range of your storm towers, so that the first third are frozen when they're still out of range, but the 2/3 are then killed because of the additional time they've got. And then when the next third go over at normal speed, they're more, your storm towers are directed on just that 1/3 of the creeps, and that's enough to kill them. Now, but it's not so clear what the correct firing strategy is for 2 or 3 spikes. So again, that's something that's probably worth investigating. I mean, I've managed to fire 2s to get a no loss of life in level 91, but I'm sure I could make better use of 3 in level 98. So again, that's something that might be worth investigating. So I think at that point I've said all I really want to say about this, and good luck.